Good men do the things they like to do. Great men do the things they need to do. But champions do the things they hate to do, to grow, to achieve, and to overcome all obstacles in their path. To learn more, visit www.evenplace.com.
I want to welcome each and every one of you to the Even Place today. Today we want to talk about a very important subject. The subject is the ways wisdom benefits you. The ways wisdom benefit you. As you know, our theme passage here that we got from King Solomon is this: wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get an understanding. When you go to various institutions has very, very different methods of operation. And we want you to know that when you come to the Even Place, our goal is to give you wisdom with understanding. So, for example, some schools, or some places where you go get information, what they do, they want you to stay in the same place that you're in. It's called social placement. They're really not concerned about whether or not you grow, you develop, the case may be, because the moment you begin to ask a question, they tell you to shut up. And it's very, very important that you need to understand that some schools, they're not really saying to you, what's important to you? What do you really need? What do you really value? And they have counselors, and then they customize an individual program for you. And so it's very, very important for you to understand that. For example, if you go to certain kinds of schools, and I've been very fortunate to go to all types of schools. Thank God for my alma mater, American University, but I've been fortunate to go to take courses at UCLA. I've been fortunate to go to take schools at Stanford, to Harvard, and various different institutions. And I know there's a different feeling, a different flavor for each one. For example, a lot of schools say when you come to our school, you're going to learn to do it our way. Now, what does your way have to do with me being my best and highest self? And I want to encourage you that whenever you go someplace, don't go to a place where they're going to instruct you on how they're going to do things their way. You need to find a school or place, whether you go church, synagogue, or the case may be, that is about you becoming your highest and best self. And that's a whole different paradigm. For example, I was at UCLA and I was taking a course in the Anderson Management Division. We were learning how to have financial management for non-financial people. What was amazing, and I never went to school before, and I cried in this class pretty much the whole time, not necessarily physically, but in my heart, because it dawned on me I was in my 40s, and before I was able to learn certain kind of things these young people were learning in their 20s. These young people at the UCLA Anderson School of Management, they're not taught to go work for somebody. They're taught to own everything. And I don't know if you've ever seen this thing on Saturday Night Live where Eddie Murphy does this thing at a bank where he says where certain ethnic groups, they go in, they can't get money, and certain ethnic groups go in, they can get money. And it blew my mind when I actually saw that happen right in front of me. The professor who taught this particular course, he was a consultant for major Fortune 500 companies like GM or whatever, and whenever they wanted research or the new next idea, they would call on this great professor. Also, this great professor had wrote many, many extraordinary books on the subject of management, and he's called upon. And a lot of his students have gone on to become extremely wealthy. One of his students came into the class, and he was in his 20s, and most of the people in that class were in their 20s. And that's what embarrassed me, was that they asked a question: how many of you in this class, about 30, 40 persons, run $1 billion corporation? And all these little kids raised their hand, and I'm like, I don't think I can raise my hand because my company, my radio stations are not valued at $1 billion. I'm like, how can these young people in their 20s running corporations that are worth net sales every year of $1 billion, and I'm in my 40s and I hadn't but much heard of $1 billion. I don't know how many zeros are in $1 billion. So part of me was crying because I did not achieve those certain kind of things at a certain age, but also I was glad that I can actually see for myself there are two types of societies out there: people who have and those who don't have. There's a thing that Matthew says. Matthew says it's called the Matthew effect. You need to always remember this: those that have, more shall be given. Those that have it not, that which what they have shall be taken away. That's a statement of faith. You cannot walk around in life saying, I don't have, I don't have. If you wake up and say, I don't have, I never amount to anything, I'll never achieve anything, what happens is the universe does things throughout the entire day to give you whatsoever you say. It gives you that particular type of lifestyle. You say, I'll never amount to anything. I'm no good. I come from the wrong side of the town. People don't like me. The universe thinks that's what you want because that's the language of the intangible. Okay, for example, in this world, there is French, there is German, there is Russian. That's the mode and method of communication among human beings. But the intangibles, love, joy, peace, tenderness, goodness, you have to speak a language called faith. In that particular language, you have to have substance to things that you hope for. It's the evidence of things not seen. So I may say to you, you look at me and say, well, what is your net worth? If I say to you, I'm going to make a faith statement. I'm a very extremely wealthy man. Because I'm not saying that based upon what I have in the natural. I'm saying that based upon what I'm having in the spirit world. So it's very, very important for you to understand and have the concept of knowing concerning the fact that there's a language that you speak to human beings, and there's a language that you speak, which is a language of faith when you want to have the intangibles in your life. So, for example, as I mentioned, when I was going to this course there at UCLA, then they said, well, since you're enjoying this one course, we want you to take another course on how to become a good leader. I said, now that I know and discover that I can become a good owner, why would I now want to become a leader of a corporation when I discovered I can own a corporation? There's two different paradigms. We have been told that we are the head and not the tail. Every day, Moses said, when we wake up, there's two choices we have. We have the choice of blessing or the choice of cursing. Now, you may not know which one to choose, but I want to encourage you to choose blessing. You can have a day that's going upward, or you can have a day that's going down. It's up to you to determine that situation. For example, a lot of times when we talk here, we give food analogies. For example, I'm in the process of changing my diet, and thank God for the last 5 months I've lost a little weight. I've lost 50 pounds, and thank God I'm getting smaller and smaller, and I want to eventually be able to look at his size and get a little smaller, because they say for my height, there's a certain weight I'm supposed to be. Now, I always like to do things in threes. Solomon said a threefold cord is not easily broken. The Godhead is a Trinity, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. So, for example, if I want to live an unhealthy lifestyle, I have salt, sugar, and fat. If I have a great consumption of salt, sugar, and fat, I'm going to get bigger. I'm not going to live a healthy life. My steps are going to get slower. I'm not going to be able to do the kind of things. I won't have the kind of energy. So if you don't want any energy, every morning, wake up, eat as much salt as you want to, as much sugar you want to, and much fat, and your life is not going to have a lot of energy. But on the other hand, every morning when you wake up, you can choose to have a life of fruits, vegetables, and spices. There's more, but I'm just saying is there's a core that brings growth and development. There's a core of things that can cause you to go down. And so what we want to do here at the Even Place is encourage you to do more things during the course of the day that's going to be fruits, vegetables, and spices, opposed to having so much salt, fat, and sugar in your life, because those things are going to pull you down. For example, each and every day, a person wakes up. One person says, I've fallen down and I can't get up. But Donnie McClurkin does another perspective. We fall down, but we get up. Now, why is it that one person falls down and get up, but another person says, I've fallen and I can't get up? They have that choice and they have the decision. Now, you can do whatever you want to do. My goal here at the Even Place is help you to become the very best of what you want to become. So if you want to fall and not get up, I'm going to help you every day to fall and not get up, because that's what you want. I don't think you really want that per se, and I'm hoping that you don't want that per se. But the point is, a lot of times people think life is very, very complicated when it's really, really not that complicated. It's all determined by the choices you make. I want you to write this down. Your long-term success is determined by three things. Your long-term success is determined by three things. The questions that you ask, the answers that you seek, and the instructions you are willing to obey. Three things will determine your success. The questions that you ask, the answers that you seek, and the instructions you're willing to obey. I'm going to say it one more time. Now, for example, if you go to a school that is involved in social placement, the worst thing you can do in that kind of school is ask a question. They tell you to shut up. You can't ask a question here. I remember when I went to my school, I had a wonderful school. I went to American University. The first 4 years, I noticed there were two types of professors. There were professors who worked in the industry and came back and gave back. And then there was a set of professors who were frustrated, who were mad they couldn't get a job in the regular world. I noticed that the ones who were successful and came back gave me real life experiences. By the time I wanted to go to grad school, I said, you know what? They don't even know how to create a grad program for me to be successful. So what I decided to do, I created my own grad program. I went to the business department. I went to the various departments around the school, and I created my own master's program because I said I need to have a specific program that meets my needs. Then I needed a way to fund it. Then I was a good friend of the dean of the School of Communication. He liked me so much, I ended up living in his basement. And that's very, very important for you to have relationships with people that can take you to the next level. He said, Alvin, let's walk. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going to walk over to NBC. NBC paid for my grad degree, and we customized a program. Then it came down to doing a dissertation. I said, if I'm going to be in the radio and TV industry, what does a dissertation have to do with me becoming successful? And they said, we never thought about it. Duh. It really has nothing to do. I said, let me produce a TV show, because if I'm going to be in the TV industry, wouldn't it be better for me to produce a TV show? Not a bad idea. So I filmed a TV show. There's a basketball player. You may be too young for this. His name was Alvin. He played for the Washington Bullets. It was the year they went to the championship. Okay? That's way past this time. That's way past this time.
I don't know, still peach baskets.
Yeah, peach baskets back in that time. We'll get a newsreel for you, okay? And you can go to the library and get the microfiche, okay? Microfilm and see it. But what happened was I recorded a TV show with Alvin, and it won an Emmy nomination here in Washington, D.C. on NBC4. That made more sense, okay, than it did for me to just go to school and for me to be able to be informed. In fact, I'm going to give you a short story as it relates to that. When I was in school, I went over to NBC, and they were so excited for me. They were really happy, especially for someone with my particular, I guess what society says, background. They were happy to see someone like me trying to do something good. And I walked into the room and I sat down with them, and they taught me how to do everything. They taught me how to have my coat on, what type of shirt to wear, what type of cufflinks, where to get my nails done, and those kind of things. So we're sitting down, and he says, young man, tell me what you want to do when you grow up. And I said, I really want to do all these films that can change the world. And all of a sudden, you could hear Kumbaya in the background, Kumbaya. And I'm sitting in that room telling this guy about all these great things that I'm doing. The guy looked at me like, what the hamburger is this guy talking about? He went to the door and closed the door because he says, is this what they're teaching you at school? He says, let me tell you something. If you want us to run NBC or other corporations that I'll help you run, you got to be concerned about one thing. That's the bottom line, profit. If you don't make your corporation money and profit, all that kumbaya stuff ain't worth nothing here. There's a way that seemeth right unto man, but that way does not produce anything. Here at the Even Place, we want to teach you and give you principles for things that's going to allow you to constantly be on your road and your path. For example, if you to go to MapQuest, I noticed one thing about MapQuest. MapQuest is very, very intriguing. When you go to MapQuest, do they ever ask you, in order for you to go online, what is your gender? What is your age? What is your sex? What is your religion? What's your philosophy? What's your faith? What time of day do you want to travel? How many persons are going to be in that car? Are you going to be driving a Yugo, a Pinto, a Rolls Royce, a Phantom, a Maybach? They never ask you those kind of questions. You've noticed that? They ask you, where do you want to go? And so if I want to go right now from here to Atlanta, Georgia, to listen to V103, and Frank Ski used to be in Baltimore's down there right now, and they have a heritage station, WAOK, which we used to run many, many years ago. So if I want to go down there, very simple. If I go on Monday, get on the Beltway, 95, 85, I get to Atlanta. If I go at 2 o'clock in the morning, Beltway, 95, 85. If I have 5 people in my car, Beltway, 95, 85. Does it have anything to do with me being black or white? It has nothing to do with it. There's a road, there's a path, there's a way to be able to do that. And what happens is too often in our lives, we make things more complicated. The one thing I want to get you to do is to ask for the recipe. Find someone who is successful and say, what is it that you do? What is it that caused you to become successful? And can you give me the recipe? For example, I remember one time I was having problems. And so a lot of times when you have problems, I want to make sure I get it correctly because I don't think you want me to sing it, but I'm going to say this song here. I'm going to recite the words to the song here. I remember one time I was having a problem and I was going through a struggle. This song came up to me. Any of you have ever done this? It was written by a guy named Richard Harris about a certain kind of park in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, this lady who sung this song was a disco diva who recently died. Her name is Donna Summer. Okay? Now, the song says, MacArthur Park is melting in the dark. You may not really, again, you got to check this on the internet. Okay? All the sweet green icing flowing down. Someone left the cake out in the rain. I don't think I can take it because it took so long to make it, and I'll never find that recipe again. Oh no. You got to sound, you got to hit the O, you got to sound sad. Oh no. I've sung that song when I've had a problem. And I got to thinking about, why am I singing the song? I'm saying is, I'll never ever find success ever again because I can't find that recipe again. Is that a good confession? No. But I believe if I want to become a great cook, if I want to have a great meal this afternoon, what do I need? I need a recipe from a cookbook from a chef. And I will have a successful recipe and a successful meal every time. And I want to encourage each and every one of you to always have a successful person around you that you can get information from, that you can glean from. I wish I had more time, but I've been notified that my time has run out. Paul said this, when I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. What does that mean? You speak as a child, you reason as a child, and you understand as a child. What do children do? Children don't ask for help. Children don't ask for help. I was looking at a book yesterday written by Colin Powell. It's a new book that just came out. I like to go to the back of the book before I go to the front of the book. I was looking at his acknowledgement, and he began to acknowledge people. First of all, he acknowledged his wife, who had been there with him for 50 years and was quietly supporting him. He says, baby, I thank God that you're there for me always. Then he began to mention his staff members of individuals who were with him for 20 years that supported him. I said, okay, there's a pattern here. This man has people that make sure every one of his needs are met. He wanted to thank them. The other day, I had a fortunate chance to talk to Zig Ziglar. His redhead, which is called his wife, he hugs her about 20 or 30 times a day that supported him. But also, he calls that his home field advantage, and his secretary had been with him for over 30-something years. That's the secret of his success. One time I had a chance to talk to John Hope Franklin, the great historian out of North Carolina. His secretary had been with him for years. So I see a pattern here. If you want to be successful, discover someone who's successful, and then don't go there asking a bunch of questions. Take your notebook and pad and say, how do you do what you do? How are you successful? And then when they tell you, it's going to be different than what you've heard about, because if you were doing it, you wouldn't have to ask them that question. But throughout your whole entire life, I want to encourage you to do one thing, and the one thought we want to have for you today is this. Find a person who's successful, ask them what they've done to be successful, because when you do that, the questions that you ask, the answers that you seek, and the instructions you're willing to obey, Isaiah said it this way, if you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. If you're not eating the good of the land, as Dr. Phil would say, if it's not working for you, then why are you doing it? I want to encourage you to do things that are working for you. God bless you.